1v1 between Headcrab and Max. Headcrab at north and Max in the south. Runcat designed this map so it sort of plays out like a MOBA, where you have the sort of left and right lanes being land and your central lane being your sort of air route, with your sort of mini expansions sort of in the middle of each of the lanes, which just worked out pretty nicely actually, I must admit. So I'm here dualcasting with Metabolical from Uber.
Yeah, I think I do have Marshall feeding my stream from 2 sources, so hopefully that will clear it up.
Meta is streaming.
Okay, now I'm not sure how many times I toggled that, but they'll tell me if it's still happening. Anyway, so we got a vehicle factory start for Headcrab, and looking around at Max, he is also vehicle started, and they are scouting away.
Yeah, I mean, both these players, well, Max has played on this map countless times now, because he was one of the ones helping test it last night when Runcat was setting it up, so he's sort of pretty familiar with the spawns. So, I mean, the skitters will probably go straight to the other person, and just to make sure, because we have had a couple of occasions where players have spawned where these sort of middle expansions are. But, I mean, even regardless of that, the skitters can sort of sit at sort of mini expansions. And just
now, is there no motivation for people to just focus on going air as a result of these kind of lanes, or what do you think?
Well, in the past couple of games that I've casted with Andreas playing, he's gone air and finished it off with Hornets. Or rather, well, in one case he was finished off with Hornets by Laren, and just finished off Cake with Hornets. So ultimately you get sort of stalemates with vehicles in the lanes against evenly matched players, and then the T2 air pops its head up.
Yeah, it seems like these side areas are like valuable to try to take early to gain control of the metal extractors there.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I actually played against Max last night, and I expanded to both, and he was running a deficit on metal. I just didn't keep up with factory production, hence why I lost, unfortunately. But we've got a sort of expansion train going from Headcrab with a couple of spinners there and a couple of fabbers, all bunched up, unfortunately. So if a bomber does manage to get off a lucky kill on all of those, it will really hurt.
Yeah, he does have 2 spinners. Also, I guess when we first were looking, well, I did some balance on the spinners a while ago, and one of the reasons we stuck with the vehicles ones is that they can take a hit from a bomber, but bombers now carpet bomb, so maybe they just get wiped out in one pass anyway.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps increase their movement speed so they can be sort of microed a bit. Because, I mean, that's something I've been doing with docks when raiding, and bumblebees sort of try and take them out while they're raiding. I just micro them and the bumblebees just can't do anything.
Gotcha. So some people are saying that my stream quality seems a bit low. See, what I did is normally I use a Live Gamer Pro, an Avermedia portable hardware streaming device, and I've been trying to use it so that it feeds directly into OBS. And look at the bombers raining it down on these tanks here. That's a really good situation there for Headcrab to get that. I think he's going to be able to take out a lot of this before it even gets to him. But it doesn't really matter where they go, because whether they retreated or went forward, they were probably going to be in the same amount of trouble.
I mean, what I've heard from Gandalf is that rather than targeting a single unit, sort of area attacking is better for groups of bombers. I'm not sure what you think of that.
I think that can work pretty well, because they'll recognize the need to hit multiple targets and act accordingly. Does finally clean those up with the fighter. Fighter then comes in, scouts the base, taking a lot of shots takes out another bomber as it comes right off the pad there, and gets away with a sliver of health.
And another one.
Yeah, and another one that lifted off. That was that fighter is like a winner. He's like the most efficient fighter of the year award, I think.
And he did it all on about 10% health.
Yep.
Talk about
And
bravery.
there's some train of tanks coming out of Headcrab's base, but meanwhile, the Aventails of Max are actually working their way into his base in multiple areas, so he's going to have to turn around and get the truck back to the base. Fortunately for him, the Aventails that are fighting there are shooting at the, well, they were shooting at the factories, and he picks off a couple fabricators as well. That was a huge win. Nicely done.
And he now has
Max.
free roam over that entire expansion to the east of Headcrab there.
He does, and he is just shooting them down. Taking out 3 of the metal extractors so far. That'll be a big hit. And if you look up at the economy, see Headcrab starting to taper off there as a big portion of his economy gets taken out.
See, something I've noticed with Max's build is it is very heavy vehicles, and he sees the other person going air and bombers, and then just pops out a couple of hummingbirds and deals with those while continuing to keep up with the vehicle production. It almost seems as though, you know, it's about vehicle numbers, and sort of the harass sort of tapers off after the little bit of annoyance at the beginning, because it doesn't really have a place against vehicles, because it seems to me that bumblebees, you have to have a large enough amount to take off a good number of tanks, but then of course they can be taken down so easily with hummingbirds.
Yeah, if you've got a good mix of hummingbirds and bumblebees, you can kind of use them to, if you get a quantity of the bombers, they'll take out a big chunk in one shot. But before you get to that kind of one shot and they have to come around for a second pass, that's a problem. Now, Max is moving out with a pretty big force on the east side of things here, and that is going to be difficult. You know, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't like moved a a couple towers and a row of walls somewhere along the way would actually slow that down quite a bit on either of these tight paths. So with the choke points being here, I'm just kind of surprised I haven't seen anything in the way of towers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the commander is right on the front lines down the west, so I mean, he kind of acts as a pretty butch tower unto himself. But I mean, I guess on the east side of Headcrab's base, he's kind of at a loss as to what to do, because he doesn't really have the vehicle numbers to counter this big blob. He only has the air to counter bumblebees, which Max isn't producing, and his fabricators and metal has tapered off because Max has been brutally efficient in taking out that expansion.
Yeah, well, Headcrab is actually ahead on metal extraction. He's at 149 to Max's 135, so it can't entirely be blamed on economy for him to be having a problem. I think there's a little bit of a production issue that he got behind because he lost some fabricators. Looks like he's got 5, 6, 7, 8 factories. Did I count that right? Maybe
More
9.
fabricators going down. Looking at them, he has 10
3,
factories
4,
to Max's 6.
Yeah, so I can just look in the army tab. I don't have to count them. How great is that? 11 to 6. So Headcrab should be in a good place here, but he does keep having this problem with the invading Aventails getting into his base. Another
just taking out fabbers.
fabricator bites dust.
Mm.
He doesn't seem too alarmed. He hasn't brought his commander over to fight, and I think he's probably going to clean this up as he surrounds these units.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's doing it in the most efficient way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of damage being done, except nothing of any significant value is going down with regards to factories or power generators.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that we had done in that recent change. We had really beefed up the health of buildings other than like the towers and combat type buildings and the metal extractors. So, you know, we really wanted it to be like, hey, you don't just get in there with like 1 or 2 guys and then suddenly, you know, leave a giant hole in somebody's base. From at least not in the tier 1 stage of the game.
I mean, it definitely seems as though you have to have a decent number of units now, and if you see the commander, you get out of there, because it means that the Uber cannon is really quite a force to avoid when you're trying to make a dent in someone's base, because if your force gets obliterated with an Uber cannon, you're left with one thing going sort of pew-pew against a brick wall.
Yeah.
I'm just looking back at Max's base now, just constant vehicle production and 2 P-gens in between each to support the next factory. which seems to be working out for him actually. In fact, he's floating, so he could probably get up a few factories or even transition to T2 if he really wanted.
Yeah. Now we've actually see that Headcrab has a pretty subsizable force here coming down to meet Max's force. I feel like he's going to want to blob it up a little bit more. That would help him quite a bit. But once they get into range, maybe those will slow down. Nope, they're still kind of moving past. You know, if you attack move, your units will tend to stop when they start to fight, as opposed to just kind of plowing in. And if you move forward, then they will tend to keep going forward while they fight. So it's kind of an interesting distinction on how you give the orders and the way it affects your the strategy or the what the units do.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he's going to be able to wipe out this force, and that will kind of give a pause in the tug of war. Meanwhile, there's another set of units coming out for Max, and a pretty sizable size of forces on the other side for Headcrab coming on just the opposite side. And meanwhile, the space in between is just littered with wreckage, which does start to prevent kind of a navigation issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to be the start of that. I mean, you could probably move in combat fabs to go and reclaim the wreckage. I'm not sure if there's still the issue of infinite reclaim. I'm not sure if that's with wreckage or not, but...
no, that one got fixed. So back in Headcrab's base, there was a couple more of Max's Aventails that did get finished off there, but they did get in there, kill some more fabricators, put some more damage down, put an end to the production of towers and metal extractors, so that was a little bit of a blow. Now a giant Headcrab force moving into Max's base. Everything kind of a lot more bunched up here, and some of those units driving right over the lava. And it looks like he's going to get a sizable force through this point that Max was defending. Now he does have that bomber coming in, and he's got more tanks coming out, so we'll see how far he gets with this.
Plus the commander's not too far away if need be, but that's definitely an easily clear-upable force there. The bumblebees working with the Aventails really quite nicely.
Yep, next wave coming in. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm surprised that given that wave and the scout on the eastern expansion there from not eastern, sorry, western from Headcrab with those aircraft just sort of laying there, that he hasn't sort of moved in a fabricator and just claimed that metal because Max isn't scouting it, and the same on the other expansion as well.
Yeah, finally takes out some metal extractors with his force. Headcrab's doing really well now. He's got almost twice the economy of Max, so he has expanded quite well. Max has a force on the other side of the map that he's not using, but he's about to be using, and actually a couple fabricators on the east side moving forward, so they may go ahead and take that one side. And I think there's a couple now moving to the other side expansion, so this may be his opportunity or his move by Headcrab to take those spots we were just talking about.
Yeah, definitely. I'm still looking in the base, and all I see is more factories going up. Lots of air factories, actually. Although they were all just cancelled in favour of hummingbirds. Like, they were all producing various things, and they all just stopped and started producing hummingbirds. A couple of idle fabbers there as well. I feel as though the fabrication kills aren't going to be doing all that much damage from now on, because there's so many fabricators sort of sitting around the base. Plus, there's that factory just infinitely building fabricators, which is an interesting choice there from Headcrab. Both players now actually in the red on metal, which is well,
we just like to say that's good utilization.
Yeah.
So Headcrab has started his expansion of metal on the side spots. I mean, I think he's got this game pretty well in hand. It's interesting that he hasn't gone for any tier 2. I kind of expected more of that at this point.
I mean, I guess the transition to Tier 2 takes a while, and in that time you could probably get up 4 or so vehicle factories. Oh, there's a Commander Snipe going on there. I lost my words completely, as I was sort of taken by surprise.
I had that same drink earlier. Yeah, easily clean that up. And the Commander, note that he's kind of, overall time, he has done like a quarter of the Commander's health, so it's not like those efforts don't add up.
Yeah, definitely. Although there is a big issue for Max here, as all of his forces go off to the west to meet Headcrab. There's another flanking force from Headcrab from the east, which is attacking an empty base now, and all Max has are a few bumblebees which are actually moving off to deal with the Western Front, so the commander's going to have to run away from this, and that's going to do a lot of damage to his production.
He does get a good rain of bombers across that Western Front, but yeah, Headcrab's moved his army over to take out a bunch of the power or the metal generation, and that is going to leave Max with only 38 metal per second, down to 31.7, and he is out. So that was a good game. Well done by Headcrab. Really showed his muscle there and wasn't deterred by the initial harass of Max. Max did a really good job early game with that harass, and then Headcrab just held on and brought it back.
Yeah. And I guess it still seems to be about this sort of tug of war between the tier 1 units until you just sort of can just break through by dividing your opponent's forces, really, which is a good strategy to do. That is, if you have the production for it.
Yeah, I think that maybe the Max side of the map does just have fewer metal extractors. Overall, if you've expanded out to kind of the natural boundaries of those lanes?
I think so, but I think Roncat's justification for it is that it's easier to claim the side expansions from the south.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't think it's a problem. Like, there's so much that can happen in the time it takes to get all those metal extraction points. If you know that this map is coming, let's just say it's not easier to get those side points. Like, who cares? Like, you just know that you have to have a more aggressive game early on if you've got the space that has less metal extraction points, or you have to be more aggressive about getting out to those side points. So either way, even if the map is not symmetric, it still can tell you something about the way it's. I've done many games where I got overly excited about working on my macro game, and then somebody came in with a bunch of units, and I just wasn't ready.
Yeah, I'm the same at the moment. Actually, trying to learn to play myself now that I have time.
Yeah,
it's tricky.
So we should look at the. I'm going to pull up the tournament ladder here. I don't know how quickly that will be recorded. That was game N. Yet we already see the win up there for Headcrab. So he is here in the finals as part of the round. He moves on to the finals. Max, that being his first loss, should show up down here, and sure enough, you can see that he is in the finals for the losers bracket. So depending on, he could come back and end up facing Headcrab again, I believe.
Indeed he can. But of course Headcrab will have the advantage, as he does have both of his lives left.